start this morning with advanced tools. Now this is stuff that you're going to need on the trail, possibly, but hopefully not. Scott, Marshall, and Tammy went over the stuff that was just basic tools and stuff that you probably should carry on the trail that aren't going to get too extravagant. This stuff, like I said, it doesn't matter, what brand it is, anything. I do Milwaukee stuff, but this is stuff that if you're in a pickle, like a grinder or impact, stuff like that, to have on the trail. If somebody breaks down and needs it, Scott and a lot of us carry just all kinds of stuff on the trail. Scott's even got a welder. It just comes in real handy on breaking stuff. But this stuff you really, really hope you don't need, but have on the trail would be awesome. So I'm gonna, if you want to kind of look, I guess I can set everything out. But again, working on stuff on the trail, I bring a tarp in case you got to get under stuff. It's handy. Troy had his floor mat. You can pull a floor mat out. Anything bed rug, people carry that stuff. But like on the trail, if it's muddy or dusty, I know Troy, Scott, everybody, Brian Smith was under. You throw that under the Jeep, you can climb under there.
Yoga mat.
Huh?
A yoga mat.
Yeah.
Yoga mat.
Yoga mat.
Yes.
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 Yoga mat.
Makes
Yeah,
you
and
more
then if you need to
flexible
stretch
to
before you
do
get
everything.
Do some
Downward dog.
But yeah, I carry a couple different things, grinder, sawzall, flashlight, keep all the batteries charged, little impacts, stuff like that. Extension set for your socket set, and then a deep well socket set. That pretty much will cover almost anything that you need if you want to get real crazy, sawzall and grinder for kind of stuff.
I think you got a Milwaukee addiction problem.
Well, it is a little bit. This is probably just a quarter of the tools. I forgot that.
That's just travel.
I forgot that my inspection light tool was in here too. But
Do you have the grease gun though?
no,
Doug.
at work, but not yet.
Doug.
Yeah, not yet. Give it time. Black Friday sales are coming up.
Okay.
And that's a great time to buy stuff like this. And again, we mentioned yesterday, if you're out on the trail and you see somebody using something, ask them about it. Say, why are you using this? Now, what uses do you get? What are you carrying that for? You can get a bunch of different uses out of tools, multiple stuff. Like you get a bottle jack. I didn't bring a bottle jack up here, but Robin did.
So yeah, I actually got this after a trail ride where I lost my valve stem and couldn't get it replaced on my Jeep, and had to get the wheel off my Jeep. So we were trying to do a bottle jack, which is what everyone kind of standard will have, something small in their Jeep. I drive a TJ now. If I had a JK, I'd probably carry this with me on the trail, but I don't have the room, and I don't have I haven't figured it out yet, but this is actually a really cool little thing. Rich had one, and it's a bottle jack and a jack stand at the same time, and it can lift a lifted Jeep. So we actually were able to get this under the axle with the tire completely flat, and it has a wide base. Has it got a picture on that side?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got a pretty wide base. We were struggling. We were putting boards down, and the ground was wet, and everything was sinking because you got this heavy Jeep, and you're trying to lift it up, and instead of lifting it, the ground's just going underneath whatever you're trying to pump up that bottle jack on. But this base looks like a square foot almost, maybe a little bit less, and it only sunk maybe less than a ½ inch into the ground, and we were able to get my Jeep up high enough where we could replace a 37-inch tire without deflating the tire. So it's a really cool little tool here. I personally don't know how to use a high lift jack, nor would I ever want to. They're very dangerous, and like we said yesterday, if you don't use them all the time, then I wouldn't even touch them. But this is a good alternative, and it's a lot safer. Just a little snippet on that.
Yeah, the bottle jack, I don't like the high lift jacks, but speaking of high lift jacks, there's a lot of different uses on that too. Troy, you probably could have covered that probably in some advanced winching stuff.
You could if you got a winch.
You can actually use them, tie some straps across and ratchet it. You can use them to push your vehicle away from stuff, but they are very dangerous. Like if you don't have that wide base, they make the foots for them to attach. There's a lot of different attachments for them. But yeah, that can have uses to bend stuff back. I've used the bottle jack in multiple situations for bending a control arm or a drag link or whatever that's bent. Tie a winch around it, get some tension on it, bend it back, and get it where you can get off the trail. And that's what the advanced tools are for.
A high lift is handy if you're trained and know how to use it and know what to expect and how to react to it. I had to use it yesterday.
And today's advanced tools. So if you're using a high lift jack, we're going to assume that you know what you're doing.
If you
If
don't,
you
ask
don't, then you're going to ask someone else who does, or put it back in your Jeep and forget about it. Because the last thing you really need is to call in for the first aid crew, Anyway, back to tools. But besides fancy power tools, you also kind of need some extra tools. And so I saw this when I was going through my bag. Something stupid and little, total probably a girl thing. But it's a magnetic strip. So when you're working on your Jeep and you're taking parts off to replace parts, it's helpful to have a magnetic pad to throw your little, you're gonna put in your pockets, you're gonna have in your mouth, and whatever, and then, or you might set them on your hood, or you might set them on your bumper, and then they fall down in there. Anyway, this little magnetic pad is nice because you can lay that on the ground, you can put your screws and bolts and stuff, something simple to think about, and then, you're not gonna lose it. You're like, crap, I totally drove off and left all my screws and bolts and stuff on the ground. So that's
another thing too. Just don't go out and buy all this expensive stuff, Milwaukee stuff. If you used it on your Jeep or you plan on using it on your Jeep, you can have a nice snap-on one at the house. Go to Harbor Freight, buy the cheap one to throw in your trail bag to have. Everybody's ride is going to be different. You're going to have different tools that you're going to need for it. But I recommend if you've used it to take something off, or if you know you're going to need it on the trail, something breaks behind it, on it, it's attached to it. Remember what that was. And if you've got room for it, whether you've got a big tool bag or a little one or medium size, if it'll fit, why not throw it in there? If you've got the room, throw it in there. Robin can go over, she's two different Jeeps now. She went from a lot of room to a little.
Yeah. So I actually had a whole, I had built a drawer system for my JK where I had my recovery gear in one drawer and my tools in another drawer, and it was really nice. But now with TJ, don't have a lot of room, so I've had to kind of consolidate and put things in bags. And tool bags are great because they're heavy duty. They can handle a lot of weight. Some of them like this have a plastic bottom, but
don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah. It's also easier to carry a bunch of small bags than carry one big giant tool bag. This just has my wrench is in here and it's pretty heavy. And imagine carrying that and then my sockets. Putting all that in one bag, it's a lot. But if you're trying to run back and forth and things, you have these little tiny bags. It's nice. I usually have a bunch of different kinds of mallets. I have a mini sledgehammer somewhere. I also have this rubber mallet, and I have a dead blow hammer. Those always come in handy with trying to get things unstuck. You want to have a basic wrench set, and I like this one. Actually, Scott gave me this for Christmas one year, and what I like about it is it's compact and it keeps it organized, so you don't have to worry about where's my junk, and then I always keep one full set, and this should have been in the beginner class, I guess. One full set of sockets that's compact, and this one goes up to 18 millimeters. So, and then I also too keep an battery powered impact wrench, and I keep my sockets that go to my Jeep. So for my tires, I have that socket with my impact wrench. For my trailer tires, I have that socket with my impact wrench. It's personal to me, and I have it easily accessible in the same location. You wanna think through the way you set up your tools so that when you're on the trail, you know what you need, where it is, and how to get to it quickly. Because you never know what kind of situation you're gonna find yourself in, and if you're off camber on the trail and we're trying to keep you from flopping, whatever, we gotta get to our tools quick.
Be organized. Have your stuff organized, know where it's at. But also, hey, everybody's ride's different, but you can share the load on tools. I may be the Milwaukee guy that's got all the impact battery stuff. You don't have to carry all that. I've got that. Your driver's meeting before you go on a trail ride, say, hey, you can leave that in your tow rig or in, back in camp. I'll carry all this. You got 4 or 5 people in a group. Rob will carry a bottle jack. You can share the load. Everybody can carry a little bit of something, so it's not all piled in one Jeep. But also, keep it secure in your vehicle. Keep everything secure. You don't want anything flopping around. That if you do get to a situation, it comes to a rollover. Hopefully not, but it can come forward and hit you in the vehicle. So ratchet straps are great to carry. Keep everything secure.
The one thing to add to that, when we were out here a couple of months ago and Trey slid a tire, everybody grabbed one thing that they could quickly get from their Jeep, had the tire off and changed in maybe 20 minutes.
We went through like 3 different jacks.
Yeah, we went through, but we had 3 different styles between all the vehicles and different extensions and risers to get it fit at that odd angle with the thing too. Like I said, you might not have a Jeep, but everybody has your basic stuff. A lot of basics really very match.
I think you ride with the same group, you kind of know what everybody has, and we'll get together and know. There's no use in carrying all this stuff. It's advanced school. Don't overwhelm yourself with it. But unless you got anything more on that, I'm not gonna touch. We're gonna go into vehicle inspection. So this is about making sure your rig is trail worthy. And that's a big thing. You don't want to come out and be a hindrance on the trail. Make sure you do a pre-inspection before the ride, and that's just basic. Just check it over, check your fluids. If you want to get it. If you don't do that, like there's a lot of wheelers that don't do it. They take it to a shop. That's great. And Brian Cretan with I think Kevin Music City. I think the drivers all got 1 hour of free labor, right, or shop time.
If you bought something.
Yeah, so is it, I don't know, I was gonna suggest that would be a great deal if you took your ride to him and let him look it over. Doesn't cost you anything. He can look over, and it's not gonna take an hour, I would think, to look over a whole vehicle and just kind of see if anything's broken, missing, loose, worn, damaged, and you don't wanna come out on the trail and have some issues. If you can get it checked out and know that there's not any, you got, peace of mind on the trail. But
also, if you have coming from my standpoint, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know how engines work. I don't know that sort of thing. But I mean, you can use common sense. A lot of people are intimidated, like, oh, I don't know how to do a pre-ride check. Well, for example, like I was just kind of looking underneath my Jeep, and I noticed because we went off-roading last night. You can see new oil under your Jeep because it moistens the dirt, and so you just kind of like look at it and kind of like, what could that be? Is it dangerous? Is it something I need to address before I go home? Or like you can go under a Jeep and look, and if there's a bolt hanging off by a thread and there's no nut on the back of it, then that's obviously something that's not right. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have to be extensive. Like I wonder where my carburetor is, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to fill my whatever, like, it doesn't have to be super in depth. It can be as simple as a bolt and a nut that looks loose, or a leak that you're like, I don't think that looks right, that wasn't there yesterday, kind of thing. So you want to make sure that you're looking at your own Jeep, even if you take it to a shop, just in case, so that you can kind of get familiar. And then some shops will even let you, if it's a privately owned shop, some of them might even let you come back there with them and point things out to you, be like, hey, I found this on your pre-inspection check that you asked me to do for you. You might want to watch this from now on. Watch when I pull this or turn the wheel this way where this is leaking here. They'll help you learn. So take some initiative, and you can be more self-sufficient whenever
drives, the noises it makes, you know, familiar yourself with your rig. But grab somebody and say, hey, can you look it over? Can you check it out, make sure we're good? She's not here yet, but we had, what's her name, Rich? LaShawn. She was in the black JKU, and Rich kind of noticed a clicking sound coming from her ride. Well, she pulled over, we checked everything out, couldn't really diagnose it then, but we made the decision it wasn't safe to take on the ride yesterday. She left it here. She got the ride, hanging out still had a great time driving Julie Smith's Jeep. But if you know your rig, let's say it's fine, take it out on the trails, you need to do a post inspection too. You need to, you know, if you can, if it's not too muddy, or take it to the car wash, bring it back, check everything out if you're going to drive it home. Because they say, you know, the sticker I've seen a lot, dummy, you got to drive this home. Well, you do. And it's going to be, if you've got something that's broken, missing, loose, worn because of the trail, or you damaged it on the trail, you need to check that out before you get on the interstate and something happens and you're on the side of the road. Which everybody here, we can do that. We can, you know, stop and check everything out. I know a lot of times, I'm not a JK person, but I know they light up like a Christmas tree, steering wheel and stuff. Sometimes after you off-road, that they'll have, you know, lights on, but later on down the road, it straightens out, I think, right? Maybe, you know.
What I would say though on the newer Jeep, like after Dixie run last year, it felt like something was off. And it wasn't mechanical. There was enough mud stuck up in my wheels that it wouldn't drive right until we went up to the car wash, and I had to pressure wash all the wheels out twice to get all the mud out of the calipers and the rotors. So pay attention to that, and you know, because if it feels different than when you drove it up to the trail, look at it and figure out what it is before you get on the interstate to drive home.
Right, and a lot of mud can cause your tires to be off balance, and it's just like weight. So you get all that out of there.
We had one big clump of mud that was like all in one spot, so it threw off the.
It was essentially an extra wheel weight for the rocks.
But it was easy to fix.
Back to what Doug was saying, know your vehicle. I can totally vouch for that. When I had my JK, I had it from brand new off the lot to where I wrecked it. And when I got my TJ, it made a whole bunch of different noises that I wasn't familiar with. And I was like, what's that? What's that? What's that? Oh my God. You know, and now it's like, you know, so once you get to know your vehicle better and you know the noises it makes, even on the trail, you'll know when you hit what the sound makes. Like yesterday, I was hearing people hit, I was like, that was your control arm, not a big deal. Oh, that was your skid plate, you're all right, you know. And you'll get to know that, you know, your Jeep is already, or your vehicle is already capable of handling a lot of these obstacles. But I tell my nursing students this all the time, you know, if your little spidey sense is going off and you know something isn't right, and more than likely it's not right. Your gut is telling you, I mean, anyone in your life is going to tell you, listen to your gut. Same thing with your vehicle. If something doesn't feel right, make sure you check it out. You're like, I just don't like the way my Jeep is riding right now. I don't like that clicking noise. I didn't remember it being that before. Don't worry about slowing us down. Go get it checked out first. You know, because our priority for you as well, and your priority for yourself should be that expensive vehicle that you're taking off road and possibly putting yourself in danger if you break down.
And basic stuff too, like fluids. Right here, Robin's got a whole thing, you know, going back to the advanced tools, you know, check your fluids, but you can also carry the fluids too, just in case. But just check all the small stuff. You're not going to know if your starter is going to go out on the trail. You're not going to probably know if your alternator is going to go out. Those stuff can go out, sensors, stuff like that. But if you can be prepared and have spare parts, then it's great. It's always great. I have some couple of U-joints on some axles. I've got one that has been replaced and one that is loose. Now that one right there is the bad one. It's got a lot of play in it. It's not tight. This one right here, you see how it's slower. It's a newer U-joint, and it's tight. I'll set these on the table. Y'all welcome to come up and look at them. This is just an example of how you can check and see if it's worn and see if it has any play in it. Again, you know, a lot of you, like that was tight. The bearings are bad. It's done, and it'll probably still work on the trail, but If you can get it replaced, it's better, because U-joints are probably one of the most common things to break and go out. And if it's on a axle, it's not as bad on the trail. But if it's going down the road on a drive shaft on the way home, I've had the experience. U-joint went bad, locked up, that rear drive shaft slung and tore everything up. Dented my exhaust, tore it up, under my body, on Wilman Rose, it ripped out all of his wiring harness. It can be bad. You don't try not to scare everybody, but just kind of be prepared, so that doesn't happen. Check your rides, check everything out. You don't want that to happen afterwards or before. That's why a pre and post inspection is great. And if you do a great post inspection, your pre inspection next time won't be as bad. You won't have to check it out as much. Go ahead.
Something that Doug kind of touched on, and this is what I usually bring on every off-roading trip, just from experience, especially with the new Jeep. I always bring extra oil. I have like regular engine oil, because on a TJ, especially the oil pan is exposed, and you have some of them have a skid plate, mine does not yet, and you might actually lose oil or it punctures or something, So I always have regular engine oil just in case, or sometimes you burn through it. Sometimes if your Jeep, God forbid, flops over, you might lose some fluids. So you want to have extra oil. That's big important. Diff fluid, I always bring at least 2 quarts of diff fluid. I think this is a quart. Because a lot of times, especially when you're newer, you'll drag your differential on a rock, and what'll happen is it'll peel back your differential cover and it'll have a slow leak. And so you don't know how much it's going to leak out. So it's always nice to have some extra diff fluid, so you can just top it off before you drive home, and then when you get home you can fix it. Or I think someone blew up their whole diff on an advanced ride one time, and they had to completely replace the diff. So you want to make sure you have at least enough to change out the diff fluid completely in the event something like that happens. And then one thing I don't have, which I should have, and Doug and I were talking about this windshield wiper fluid. You think that's silly, but it really does come in handy when you're slinging mud on your windshield. I mean, you don't want to get out when you're on a hill like this and have to be like, like, who's got that? So just throw on the windshield wiper fluid, clean it off. And then I always bring antifreeze. My Jeep tends to overheat. A lot of TJs will overheat when they idle for a long time. So that's always good to have too. Make sure you've got as much of your fluids that you top off on your Jeep on your pre-inspection handy in the event that something happens, you need to top it off again.
Yes, Dad.
Something to mention on the antifreeze, no matter how advanced you are, there are different types of antifreeze. And the JKs use a different antifreeze than what the TJs did. So look in your owner's manual, consult with a mechanic, make sure you're using the right antifreeze, because if you don't, you will create havoc on your engine.
Yeah.
Same thing with engine oil.
Was that there?
And same thing with engine oil, because like on the newer JLs, there's 3 different types of oil for the different engines. So make sure you know which oil, so you're not just grabbing, grab the oil that Robin has in hers.
Right.
That ain't gonna do too well in my Jeep.
Right. Yeah, every rig's gonna be different. Everybody's ride's gonna be different, just like for the tools, for anything, fluids, all that. Know your ride. Don't be that guy that comes out, drug your ride out of the woods, come trail ride, and you're broke down the whole time on the trail. Everybody's gotta take care of it. Be self-sufficient. Come out, just be self-sufficient as much as you can. If you're new, just ask questions. If you're new, I don't expect anybody to come out and know everything, be completely self-sufficient. No. But if you've been wheeling for a year, 2 years, 3 years, you know how to be more self-sufficient. You know what you need, what you probably should have, what you should do, what to look for, what to watch out for.
I mean, if you're going to a moderate to advanced ride, we're going to expect that you know all these things. We're going to expect that you know to top off your fluid. We're going to expect that you know to have the right fluids for your Jeep in the event that you need them. We're going to expect that you know that, your Jeep, Derek was saying, he knows that he needs special oil for his Jeep. I mean, we're gonna expect that you guys know that. So if you don't know that, research it. I mean, it's so easy to find out this information online nowadays with everything we got these days. You can find YouTube videos on how to change your own oil. I mean, it's really not that hard just to be educated and be self-sufficient, and that goes a long way with this sport. I know I lean heavily on people like Doug and Scott for mechanical issues, but I try really hard not to be that girl. Be that girl that's like, can you help me? Not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, do your best to do what you can. You know your limitations. If you can't do it, and then get there in advance. And if I needed something, I needed help from Doug, I would call him in advance or text him and be like, hey, I'm gonna show up a couple hours early. Do you have time to come and look at this with me? Or hey, can we meet somewhere a couple of days before the ride? But please, 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 don't show up for a ride and not have done any of the inspections, not have it looked over by a mechanic, or be completely unprepared, and then everyone's got to wait, however long till we figure out what's wrong to go on the trail. Now, new person ride is completely exempt from what I'm saying. What I'm saying, I'm talking about, we're talking about advanced, we're talking about modern advanced wheelers at this point, okay?
Yeah, don't be intimidated by it either if you're new, or even if you're mildly experienced. Don't think that you can't come out and have fun and try to be so self-sufficient. You don't have to do that. Come out, have fun, like Robin said, grab somebody, hey, check this out, let's look at it before we go. But like I said, don't be that guy, and do a great pre-inspection and post-inspection, especially if you're driving home today or anytime. Which is, like I said, anybody that needs any of us to go out, we'll use the tarp and get under there and check everything out. Since it's rained now, knock the dust down, but pretty much, unless you've got anything else, that's it. If anybody wants to check out the U-joints, but I think we've got Scott, Marshall, and Troy with some advanced spotting. Do y'all still want to?
Doug, I got one thing real quick.
Okay.
The last part of the preparedness is when you get home, wash the underside, 'cause you'll
Yeah.
see stuff then that you're not seeing here. You're ready to anxious to get home.
Right.
Wash it, and something I saw Kevin do, put a sprinkler underneath to get all that mud out that doesn't come out naturally.
Yeah, Kevin's almost as bad as Kyle Reeves with his. It's clean before he leaves.
Hey, it works though, it really. I pull my Jeep up in my yard, and I put a sprinkler on and just leave it run underneath, and let it run for an hour, and everything over there just washes out, and then it's in your yard, and it's cleaned up. It works great.
Yeah, the longer you leave that stuff
There
uncleared,
it is.
the harder it is to get out.
Well, and that too being said, mud can act like a patch, If you've got a leak or a crack in something, and you leave that mud under there forever long, and then you go to do your pre-inspection before your ride, and it's like this big event you've been looking forward to, and I'm like, yeah. And then you go under there and you clean it all out, and you're like, crap, because you got a big crack in your oil pan, or something else that the mud has essentially patched for the time being since the last ride that you had, So it is very important to clean the underside of your Jeep prior to or after you do a ride, so you see